So we pick up here with the Virginia Plan, and we're going to continue discussing the various parts of the original one proposed by James Madison. Remember, we ended with a discussion of the bicameral legislature, which means two houses, a House of Representatives and a House known as the Senate. So as we move on, the next thing that they're going to talk about in his original plan is a court system. But before we get to that, we're going to talk about the idea of how they were going to pick the president. They were going to pick the president back then by Congress, which of course is not the way we do it today. So that would have meant that President Trump would have been selected by the Congress. That's not the way that it happens. But under Madison's original plan, that's the way that they thought would be best for people from Virginia. The reason was it was a debate between letting the people pick, which were not a lot of people had a lot of trust, or having Congress pick, meaning the people elect Congress and they in turn pick the president. So another part that he fills in that was missing in the original Articles of Confederation government was a national court system. So he does create a national court system, and you can sort of see there's two parts of it. He has both federal ones over here, but he also has state ones over here. Now understand that in your country you have two different types of laws. You have state law and you have national law. You break a state law, the state officials will come after you. Local police, state police, you will be prosecuted by a state attorney, and that's where you would go if you're convicted, is a state prison. If you break a federal law, then the federal police, which you would refer to as the FBI or something along those lines, they would be in charge of getting you and apprehending you, and then of course a U.S. attorney would be in charge of prosecuting your case. Now, what you see here in front of us is the highest court in the land, which is the United States Supreme Court. So, they deal only with constitutional issues, meaning if your constitutional rights were somehow violated, they would rule on the merits of that case. So the Virginia Plan was the one supported by large populated states. Okay? So states like Virginia, New York, those were the states that really were pushing for the Virginia Plan because it benefited them. So the small states came up with their own plan, and that plan would be known simply as the New Jersey Plan. And the New Jersey Plan was pretty much very much like the original articles. So it's supported by small states, New Jersey, Delaware, Connecticut, Georgia. Those smaller states with smaller populations pushed for this, which was basically a repeat of what it was under the Articles. One state, one vote in a one-house Congress. So, your question might be, which plan that we have today, which government, our form of government, which one is it most? New Jersey or Virginia? So that's what I ask here. And if Madison was alive today, he would say it's mostly based on the Virginia plan, not the New Jersey one. The Great Compromise, one of the two compromises mentioned in Section 7.2. This one is very important. So what the issue is big populated states versus small populated states. How do we make both sides happy? That is the essence of a compromise. Each side doesn't get completely what they want, but they get part of what they want, which makes both sides at least agreeable. The main issue of the Great Compromise was representation. How do you make both big states and small states and their ideas of representation happy to both? And basically what they did is that they have to do one for proportional and one equal. So here we go. The Great Compromise deals with the legislative branch, the lawmaking branch. And they are going to keep Madison's idea of a two-house legislature, not a one-house. And in that two-house legislature, this is the essence of the compromise. You're going to have one house, which they would refer to at the time as the lower house, would be proportional representation, meaning more populated states would get more representation. So that would make Virginia and New York and all those populated states more powerful and happier. So that today is your House of Representatives. Now the reason why they call it the lower house, it doesn't mean that it's any worse than the other house, is that when they first met in Philadelphia, the House of Representatives met on the ground floor, the lower portion of the building, and then The other portion of the Congress met in the upper floor. So that's where upper house, lower house comes from. So if you remember this map that we've looked at before, you can sort of see the more populated states have a larger number. The smaller populated states have a lesser number because they do not have as much population. The upper house will have equal representation, not one vote, but two. And in that would be the United States Senate. So that makes the small states like New Jersey and Delaware happy about their representation. At least they're all equal in one part of the legislative branch. Now today you have some people that are somewhat upset because you have a huge state like California that has 38 million people in it and they get 2 senators. Okay? And then you have a tiny little state as far as population wise like a Montana or Wyoming whose numbers are literally less than 1 million people in the entire state, and yet they have 2 senators as well. But this is the government that we have, that we agreed on, and we've had since 1789. So moving on, the last part is this. The man who comes up with this idea is known as Roger Sherman. He's from Connecticut, so sometimes you may hear the Great Compromise be interchanged for the Connecticut Compromise. So we're going to end it here, and we're going to pick up with the next compromise and how this is going to get approved in the next screencast.